What would you tell them about fear? What would you tell them?
To never ignore it because it is real.
Yeah.
Face it. Make it your friend. Be informed by fear. Because when we feel fear, in its deepest manifestations, it's a signal that we're on the cusp of something new and different.
Something great. So Standing in the Gap is about giving back. It's about showing up for people who have no one else to show up for them. I am Dr. Tonjua Williams, president of St. Petersburg College, and you are listening to Standing in the Gap. Welcome to the first season and the very first episode of Standing in the Gap with Dr. Tonjua Williams. I have the privilege and the pleasure during this month, which is Women's History Month, to welcome Dr. Kanika Tomalin, the CEO and president of A Healthy Foundation for St. Petersburg. In this episode, we're going to talk about many things, from how to live with fear, how to be a great leader and not be afraid of the noise and what we hear. Referencing our ancestors and others in this episode is important. You're going to see and hear from the best of the best. Dr. Tomalin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm just going to jump into the questions. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Listen, you are literally a fifth generation St. Petersburg girl. So you grew up here all your life. Tell me what it was like when you were growing up here in St. Pete.
So St. Petersburg has always been a wonderful place, but it was a very different community when I was growing up. The world-class city that we enjoy today, that's filled with everything from constant evolution of arts and culture and education and commerce, that really didn't exist. We were a much more sleepy town that was very socially segregated. And the biggest thing when I think about the juxtaposition and contrast of life and the community my children experienced, as opposed to that I experienced growing up here, was there were very few people who looked and lived like me in positions of power, influence, and decision-making, shaping the course and trajectory of the life that I was experiencing. I think that's the best thing about what is happening now. So many people in influential places, so many examples, trailblazers, you and so many others making a difference. And so St. Pete is awesome. It's been awesome, but it's getting better continuously.
You know, you talk about transformation. And when I think of transformation, I think of how we grew up, because we're both St. Petersburg girls. We were born and raised here. And what was available to us at that time. And I think that because less was available, we had to do more to get there. So I think about the moments when I attended things that no one else in the community may have attended, or I participated in events and initiatives that others are like, girl, why are you going there? That's not for us. Why are you there?
Sure.
Has that been something that you have always, strived to make sure that you are actively engaged in things, to make sure that you're in the know of what's happening?
Absolutely. I feel very called to normalize the presence of brilliant Black women in every space and place. I believe there is no space in this universe that is not designed for the inclusion of all we have to offer. And so I've never selected out of any situation simply because no one like me had been there before. And I think there's some obligation in that, we were talking about growing up. While we didn't have as many opportunities, we did have mentors and leaders who were intent in this first era post-segregation, this first era of integration, to ensure we had exposure and access to all that was possible for us. Great giants in our community.
Great giants.
You know them all.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And even in our community and out of our community, when you talk about there's nothing that's not intended for us, that we can do all. I remember as a student at the University of South Florida, I did not have a scholarship. And I was at what was called the Bayboro campus back then. That was the St. Pete campus now. And I actually applied for a scholarship for Greek students. And my colleagues were like, well, you're not Greek. And I'm like, nope, I'm not. But I'm going to be Greek for this scholarship because I'm going for this scholarship. So I applied. I told the truth of who I was. No one applied for this scholarship but me. So guess who got it?
You see that?
Me.
Yeah.
And so I had an opportunity of every 6 months spending time with a group of Greek men, showing them my report card, having lunch, sharing with them that their investment in me was well worth it. That I'm not Greek, but I'm going to be smart and I'm going to get it done. And when I think about the trails that you have blazed, it takes that kind of fortitude to push through to say, look, maybe this isn't for me, but I'm going for this. So tell me about the hospital job. I mean, that was not a normal job for us. So how did you get there? Tell us the story.
So I trained as a journalist.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And much of my journey parallels what you're describing in that I've been fortunate to have people who saw greatness for me before I could see it or know what was possible myself. And was fortunate to go through the Poynter Institute for Media Studies. Not a lot of people who look like me, but people who were advocating on my behalf based on talent that they saw. And just that very early planting of a seed that you are a talented, gifted writer. There is much value in that. Develop that and it will take you anywhere you want to go in the world. The Poynter Institute, which owns the St. Pete Times, paid for the total of my undergraduate education.
Wow.
And let me work in the newsroom as a reporter with bylines on the front page.
What?
Every time I was home. That setup, that really was the foundation for my thought that anything that I dream is possible. And to welcome the influence and support of unfamiliar faces and spaces, which is really critical. Not only being surrounded and celebrated, amplified by family and friends in my village, but also having bridges just created throughout the broader community, opportunities that took me all around the country, all around the world, taught me there may not be any template, but go and do it. So through that work, I made connections and went to work for Bayfront Health System and landed again under the influence of a wonderful mentor, Sue Brody, who was an exceptional woman, CEO, when there were no women running hospitals when she came into that work. And so it was very important to her to always, not just walk through the door, but bring others with you. And she recognized capacity in me and gave me exposure and access to everything she did and everything she knew. And I came in a very entry level position as a very young professional, handling events for the foundation at the hospital. And I left as the vice president of strategic planning and public affairs.
So courage. More than being in the right place at the right time, but courage. To actually go where no woman has gone before or to a space that you're unfamiliar with. How did you handle that? What was the passion behind your purpose that kind of pushed you through that when you were like, I've never done this before, but how did you do that?
It's not easy. It's a very daunting type of discipline, but it is a discipline that is really based for me in that constant cost-benefit analysis of knowing, I know where I am now. I know exactly what this is and imagine what is possible and going for it, digging deep. I think courage is the right word and being comfortable with the risk of failure. That's the only way I've really ever been able to attain and achieve triumph is knowing that failure might be an outcome and that will be okay because we're not defined by any individual moment. We are the aggregate of all that unfolds in our lives. And, the best moment and the worst moment are both aberrations and we are what we do every day.
Every day. When you're talking, Dr. Tomalin, it's like courage over comfort, right? For me, going into those spaces that you've been told you don't belong, You can't be here. Why are you here? You're not going to make it. Yeah. You're not good enough. Yes. You're not smart enough. You're not strong enough. You've not done this before. For me, I take that as a challenge. Mm-hmm. I don't shy away from what I can't do, but I know that if I don't try, I will feel like I've sold my soul. Mm-hmm. So when we think about where we're not supposed to be, and we realize this is my spot, this is where I'm going.
Yeah.
For me, it is comfort in knowing other people like me can get here because I got here. And if I didn't get here, I built a little bit of that bridge to help them jump over me and get there without me or without me being there. Have you had a moment where you're like, people are telling you, Kanika, don't do it. And you're like, I got to. Like,
yes.
If I don't, I'm selling my soul.
For sure.
Give me an example of something that you may have done and they're like, don't do it.
You know, what's interesting, pretty early I figured out that my aspiration and my happiness requires no permission except my own.
Okay.
Because most of the time that I was receiving messages like that, believe it or not, it wasn't from people working against me. Mm-mm. They had covert missions that aren't even my business. So often that comes from people who are well-meaning, who fear for what could possibly happen if you fail. So I had to learn to look into the eyes of very well-meaning people who want the best for me, but didn't have evidence of that path being realized and explain to them why it was for me. And in that, it's a constant affirmation and reinforcement. You begin to understand and believe it yourself, so whether it was people who really were for me.
They loved you. They wanted to see you succeed.
Yeah, but they want a path of less resistance and more guaranteed reward. And we're not talking about the difference between abject failure and total success. We're talking about the margin of excellence. Maybe don't go to school right now. Your kids are so little.
Too much. It's going to be too much. It's too stressful. It's never a right time, right? I mean, the time is now, and you have to take it when that time comes, right?
Right. You'll be a great journalist. Don't go over to the business side.
You can't do that.
Nobody writes better than you. Stay here and be a great journalist. But I know the decisions are being made on the business side. That's where the power is. And I know nothing about it, but I'm going to learn what it takes to sit there with confidence. And I'm going to be a great journalist who also understands the business of this paper. And it'll take me anywhere. Well-meaning guidance that just can't be my compass, couldn't set my course. I had to set my own course.
So to me, I think for the audience, a nugget from that to me is that don't let your strengths hold you back from even better things to come. I mean, when you think about your strong journalism capabilities, you didn't say, well, I'm just going to stay here because I'm good at it.
Right.
You're like, but there's more out there.
There's more.
And I need to do that. And I totally understand when people who care about you give you advice to keep you safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
To keep you in that safe lane. But I think there's no leader is safe if they stay in the safe lane. You won't succeed if you stay in that safe lane. You have to be okay going and coloring out of the lines. You have to be okay going around a little bit. But I think you also can't be afraid of failure. And I think that was something you really said that, look, to me, it is what it is. But I think that what you're saying is what I've seen and witnessed in your movement. And that is this. I am about change. I am about transformation. Therefore, I am willing to take this risk, to make this mistake, and to even tell myself, okay, I messed that up, but I did good over here. I rocked this. I got this done. And so when you think about that and you think of the young people who are watching you, who are listening today, what would you tell them about fear? What would you tell them?
To never ignore it because it is real.
Yeah.
Face it. make it your friend. Be informed by fear. Because when we feel fear, in its deepest manifestations, it's a signal that we're on the cusp of something new and different.
Something great.
And worthy of our investment. We should not shy away from it. We should not pretend it doesn't exist. We should not be without an understanding of a way to mitigate risk so that you position yourself best for success. But fear is okay. It's all okay. It's all required for the optimal outcomes.
Fear is really our friend. And we shouldn't shy away from that. And I think to our audience, too many times we allow ourselves to be consumed about shoulda, woulda, coulda, but you didn't. And that's the part of fear, is what you wish you had done, that you should have done, and you should have tried, but you didn't. And what Dr. Tomalin is saying is this: courage over comfort.
Always.
Right?
Always.
Right? Don't be afraid. Keep moving. And you'll get there. You won't get there if you don't try. That's a guarantee. And so we do need to take those things that we're afraid of and push them to the side. Be educated on them. I think you said that, Dr. Tomalin. Be educated on it so that you're as prepared for that piece that you're not comfortable with as possible. I can tell you for a fact, I almost didn't become the first African-American female provost of Tarpon Springs, the first African-American female vice president at St. Pete College, or the first president, if I had allowed my fear to overcome me. And there are things, we're just not good at everything, right?
That's right. Well, and look at, you could have settled into that history at any step along that continuum, right?
Yeah.
And everyone around you would have celebrated appropriately so those accomplishments for the entirety of the history that we celebrate. But there was more for you. And you knew that better than anybody else. And that's really the point. You know what is for you better than anyone else.
It's true.
And it is our comfort. How much stronger do you emerge from a situation when you face down that fear?
I know.
And it becomes a partner, in that ongoing work to understand what is possible.
So, that I have to ask this question as deputy mayor of the city of St. Pete. First, right?
First citywide deputy mayor.
Okay, so first citywide deputy mayor. And all of the noise, okay? Because leadership doesn't come without noise, right? That's just a part of it. You, as a leader, get ready for the noise, okay? How do you quiet that noise so you can hear your thoughts and focus on that vision that has been given to you to change the community? How do you do that?
This is such an important question, because when you are charting unpaved territory,
that's right,
uncharted course, and there is no specific example by which you can follow.
There's no rule book. There's no guidebook for you to use.
And the stakes are high.
Very.
You must find a way to quiet the noise, but not to the point that you marginalize those inputs that inform the wisdom that's required to deliver the best outcomes. This is specifically important as it relates to public service and representing voiceless people and representing marginalized interests. The balance at some point, you have to come to conclusion and come to decision and understand that you have done the work. And there's no substitute. You must do the work.
Do the work.
You must remain connected to the people that you are representing. And then you have to go into your place that is the aggregate of the journey that brings you there and just decide.
That's it.
And go forward and just do it. And it's a meditation. I found it to really be a meditation and a discipline and preparation and confidence. And it was hard. I was a young deputy mayor. I was 38 years old when I was named deputy mayor. Wow. And I had no aspirations for politics, and yet I was in a very political arena. And I went because it was an opportunity to exact change like none our community had seen before. And I was at the height of my career in the private sector.
Hospital.
on a track to be a CEO.
That's right.
I took a 50% pay cut when I went to City Hall with young children. That was a big commitment on behalf of my husband and my family. I would be doing twice as much work, half as much resource. And so much of what I needed to pour into them, I had to pour into the entire community. Became my family, became my responsibility. And I felt I had no choice but to do that because people have done that for us.
That's the only way we got here is a group of people invested in us and helped us move, that needle forward.
Absolutely.
But when you think about carrying the community, that's a bit much. I mean, that's not. I mean, there are a lot of babies, right? That's a lot, and everybody's in a different spot.
Absolutely.
They're not all in the same space physically, mentally, emotionally,
just
financially.
Even ready for the opportunity that might be possible.
Right. And so when we look at that, I guess the question is, public service has to be a passion. When you're willing to include your family, they make the sacrifices.
Yes.
They share you with the entire community, day in, day out, Monday, Sunday, Saturday.
It never ends.
It never ends.
If you do it right.
Right.
If you're,
You're always Madam Deputy Mayor. Everybody's coming at you. You're at dinner. They're stopping you. Hey, I'm not going to bother you long, but, I get that.
Yes.
Have you cried for this community before?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Every emotion on the full spectrum of emotion.
Yeah.
I have felt for this community. That the equity that I had an opportunity to advance was the overarching drive that pushed me to accept the appointment and to bring my best every day. Working in the capacity that I worked at the hospital gave me audience and inclusion in some spaces, places, rooms, circles that so many people in our community don't even know exist. And walking in so many worlds, the world I grew up in, the world that it expanded, this world of exclusive elitism, I thought, we need to open this up for more people. There is so much here people don't even know to pursue.
Exactly.
So that was the total of my aim, opportunity creation. Self-perpetuating opportunity creation that allowed people to realize the fullness of their potentials, that this be a city of opportunity.
And I think that is so right. I mean, looking at how we can unlock opportunities for everyone. And even at St. Petersburg College, I have to admit, I pray for my school. I think about my people. I think about my employees. I am always looking for ways to help improve their experience just as much as students. And it just does me, I think I get so proud when I see people in the community say, my son now owns a home. My daughter now has a car. I'm doing this. And to see the mother and son walk across the stage at graduation, to see the daughter and father walk together across the stage, it is something that you can't buy that experience. You can't buy that feeling. And so I would imagine as deputy mayor, you've had some really high moments, right? Tell me what was the thing you were the most proud of that you accomplished as deputy mayor?
So, our city is a city of 270,000 people, roughly. The second term, I was city administrator as well as deputy mayor.
Okay.
Holding simultaneous roles.
Gosh.
And that meant I was the chief operating officer leading a team of 3,000 people, something you know well. I was very proud of everything we were able to do for the city at large, and we did a lot. Reduced poverty to record lows, transformed neighborhoods, partnered with the education ecosystem to create new pathways. But I left the city most proud of what I was able to do as the leader of that team of 3,000 people, to create new levels of equity and opportunity and matriculation that just were not even thought of before.
That's great.
We were able to place more minorities and women in positions of leadership than had ever happened in the history of the city. Not only in the mayor's cabinet, but throughout all the departments of the city. Wow. And just doing that infused such a lens of equity and inclusion that we see it unfold in policies and practices. We added things that should have been added a long time ago. Paid maternal and paternal leave,
Oh, that's a big deal.
Yes, investment in education, so many things. So, and I still have great relationship with those 3,000 team members and saw each one as a person and all they represent and the servant leadership they bring to our community. And I'll forever be most proud of that work, the connection I made with my team.
When people realize that you see them and that you value them, it means something to them. It'll make them go to the end of the world.
Absolutely.
For you. And so you want to make sure that there's no hidden figures, in your organization and that everyone feels the love. Yes. I think that's very important for our audience to understand that caring about individuals is important. It means a lot that you see them, whether they are facilities or they're a vice president. Everybody deserves that same, respect.
Yes.
And, we're getting ready right now for Women's History Month. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about being visible and being seen and being heard, it's important for our little girls to understand that there are no limits, for them, that they can be the next president of the United States if they want to be that.
That's exactly right.
And so when you look at, your hospital administration, then running the biggest city, is St. Pete the biggest?
No, it's the 5th largest city, was the 4th largest city for some time while we were in office.
Okay, for Pinellas.
Oh, definitely Pinellas County.
It's the largest.
But in Florida.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
To do that, and then Petersburg College to actually handle the operations and administration there. And then we're going to get to the Foundation for a Healthy St. Pete. Okay. But for little girls out there and for young ladies who are really looking to get economic mobility, they want to be on the come up. They want to build those stackable credentials and have a better life for them and their families. What skills and values would you tell them build these up to prepare you for this work? What would you tell them?
And I would love to hear what you have to say about this as well.
Definitely.
Because, I think while our trajectories have been different, there's so much parallel.
Yeah.
We both are purveyors of opportunity.
Yeah.
We both are helping people hope and dream and realize possibilities.
Yep.
That's what we do.
Yep.
And we both are the first Black women to do that in the spaces that we are doing.
Correct.
So we carry a lot of responsibility.
Correct.
And I think the first thing is to dream and be comfortable with audacious dreams. Mm-hmm. Get comfortable, find examples. Don't limit your examples to people who look and live like you, because you may be the first to be an example for someone else.
Right.
Figure out your passion and your love and your light. Find examples of somebody who's done it. Mm-hmm. See what they did right. Ask them where they might have done it different and learn from that. Learn from that. Mm-hmm. Be educable. Be willing to learn always. Always.
Totally agree.
Welcome feedback. Mm-hmm. And take that. When you get your shot, take it. Every time. Yeah. Don't worry about it. You mentioned Petersburg College. I've had a lot of education. I've not worked in education. Right. Before I went to Petersburg College, I had not worked in higher learning. Mm-hmm. I thought it was very important to look at liberal arts education and the role that Black women can play in liberal arts education, particularly here locally. And had no idea about that other than the experience of being a student before I went. But I had transferable skills. Yeah. And I had a big dream and I had an opportunity.
And you took it.
That's what it takes. I'd prepared. I'd positioned myself and I went to play. And when it's your turn up, you gotta go. You gotta go.
But there's one thing that I think you missed.
Tell me.
You have always been a teacher. Whether it's the teacher of a process the teacher of a system, the teacher of operations, showing people, the teacher of care, showing. And so you're always, I think as a leader, you're always in teaching mode. You're always
Leaders
teaching.
always are.
You're always showing people. It may not be in a classroom with textbooks and PowerPoints. It may be the teacher of living and life, because we're always teaching.
And that is the obligation of the gift of knowing.
That's it.
Is to teach someone else
How
to
to
expand
do
it.
That's
Absolutely.
right. To do it better
Yes,
than
yes,
we did. You know?
absolutely.
So for me, if I were talking to little girls and young ladies, the first thing I would tell them is to be comfortable in the skin they're in. Okay? No one can be Tonjua. No one can be Kanika better than us.
That's right.
Period. Okay. Now, you could be a good Susan and a good Melissa and Marilyn and all that, but you can't be a good Tonjua. That's me. So I am not trying to be anyone other than me. Stay true to yourself. That to me is the first thing. I'm not the best dressed president, I'm sure. I'm not the best looking or whatever, but I'm the best Tonjua. And I'm good at that. I'm darn good at that. First, stay comfortable in the skin you're in. Second, I can't agree with you more. Be willing to learn. Because you cannot know it all. Okay, but be willing to learn. My staff can talk me off a cliff. Dr. Williams, that's not going to work. Dr. Williams, you should try this. Even as the president of a college, I have to sit back and say, all right, let's try it your way.
Yes.
Because they know more than I do in many ways. Okay. So allow people to give their voice. If you want to be a leader, you can't talk all the time.
Oh my goodness. Make room for the best idea to emerge.
Thank you.
That is our job.
Hello? Okay,
that
is our job.
That is the
So
point.
that's what we need to teach our youngsters that,
Yes,
okay, this is the time for you to put the phone down, be actively engaged, and give your idea. Give your best idea. Third, do not listen to the noise. Okay, you can study the noise. You can see if there's some validity to the noise. You can. But the noise is usually 10% of the people you got to work with. That 90% who's on your side, who's in the gap with you, trying to make it happen, it's okay to work with them. But I got to dip with the 10% every now and then to learn, but I'm not going to let them consume me and keep me from moving forward. Fourth, make sure that you invest in you. If you want to lead, you got to take care of this. You got to take care of this. You got to take care of this. There's no way. You can't give all of you away.
That's it.
You can't. There will be nothing left. So you have to take care, of you. And I think there's too few conversations like this to talk about.
Yes.
What does it take? What should I do? Where should I be? And I think the challenge for me is some leaders want to make themselves seem like they always been a leader. They always knew how to do it. And that's not true. Some of us grew into this concept and idea. Have there been times when you felt like, man, I blew that one?
Of course.
Yeah. Me too.
Of course. And it's
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I mean, I really, that's when I say failure is your friend, it's not rhetorical. It is real.
It is.
Because when things don't go as planned, that's where the real, it's like, now we're getting,
that's where the secret sauce is. That's where you really get to rock and roll, because you're learning what it is.
We don't even know what to pray for. We don't even know what to seek. And the universe will show us if we will just be still and be real enough to know that this is a journey that requires more than our hitting the exact spot every time.
Yeah.
That's not a requirement for anything. That's not how anybody got to the top of any trail, any mountain, any journey.
And not allowing our failures to define us. Like, hi, I'm Tonjua. I failed at, that's not typically what we, would do. But internally, it's like, I'm still holding on to what I did wrong.
Yeah, it's just a temporary detour.
It is.
To the destination.
But, when we think about women and women's history and all of the fortitude and push that women had to do to get to vote, to get to the front table, to be able to lead. I'm curious to hear your thoughts of, Are we still building women leaders? Are we making that happen? Are we carrying that torch?
I think that we are, because we must. Mm-hmm. We must.
We must.
And our young women are brilliant enough to expect that of us and hold us accountable to that truth. Now, the work for us to discern and recognize is that that brilliance will either be applied in wonderful, constructive ways that carry us far into the future, exactly where we need to go, or it will be brilliant disaster, because there is brilliance there that requires us to help guide them along the way into the fullness of their possibilities. I have a 20-year-old daughter.
Yes.
Who is a student in New York. And, I think of her college application when she was applying for school, and she attends a women's college.
Okay.
And she had an essay question. Name a woman you'd like to have a conversation with. Fictional, historical, fictional, living or dead. And I thought her answer was so compelling. So I'm going to share it with you because I think it's an illustration of the young women leaders we're building. She said she would most like to have a conversation with her maternal ancestor she doesn't know the name. The first woman in her family, in her genealogy, to be transported along the transatlantic slave trade to come to America, because she'd like to have a conversation.
About what was that like?
And for her to see that her journey was not in vain. The depth of that thought of all that is possible in the future, going not back to me.
No, before.
Or my grandmother.
No, way back.
The ancestors we don't even know to name. Leadership is a part of our heritage. It is in our very DNA. And I'm speaking in this moment about women of African descent, but it's true of women, all women.
All women.
We have always had to find the capacity, process, and possibilities for leadership to guide all the people who have been depending on us. So it will always be. And we have obligation to breathe deep into that, and make sure these brilliant young women who are waiting to discover themselves have some tools by which that can happen in an amplified and exponential way that changes the trajectory of everything that follows.
Wow. That, I can't even add to that at all. What an amazing young lady, your daughter.
What a great vision to see the future in our origins that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, you're talking about the ancestors, and, we're talking about celebrating women and what we've done and what we've accomplished so far. What could we do differently in our community that is going to yield to what you just talked about your daughter on? I mean, literally thinking about the very first one in her lineage who did this, to say, look what your work did. Look at me now, right?
Yes.
So what can we do different? I mean, what would you say is missing that we need to tighten up on?
I think it's a lot of what we've already talked about, but really I think it's seeing them, understanding that their journeys are not ours.
Yeah.
People made room for our journeys to unfold.
Yep.
Learning from those things that were well-meaning but not necessarily helpful along our way. Having the courage to breathe life into their courage. They have dreams, if we get it right, beyond anything we can conceive. They're not trying to do what we did.
No, they're trying to do something totally different.
And we can believe in that. And we can tell them that is valid. And we can model what we expect.
Yes.
When we have young women, beautiful, existentially, just because they are here in the ways that they are, they must see that we see that in ourselves.
Yep.
We want them to be comfortable in their skin. Let us start
by being
with that example.
Exactly.
More than anything we can say, we can teach, as we are all teachers, with what we do.
You couldn't have said it any better. I think that our girls can't be what they don't see. I mean, that's the bottom line. They can't be what they don't see, you know. And at the college, we really are aiming at ensuring that they do see themselves. And we have the Pearls and Portfolios event where we take middle school, elementary young ladies, we bring them together and we show them, sweetie, you can wear the pearl and carry the briefcase. Let's rock this. You can do this. Here are some careers that are up and coming, you know, allowing them to see people in action and see what they can be and beyond. I think that is critical. We also serve women who have had a rough time and women on the way, and they're like, hey, my start doesn't have to be my finish. I may be 30. I may have 2 kids, but I can still arrive. I can still thrive. I can still move forward. And so there's too many women out there who are still underemployed and undereducated, or unemployed and uneducated. And that is something that we are going to have to champion, and we're going to need to invest in our women to make sure that they know what they can be. And to build that pathway, you know, that helps them get there. I think that's the other critical piece. But, you know, this is just my opinion, but it seems like women who are in our roles don't have time, won't make time to invest in our young people. And what are your thoughts? That's just Tonjua. I'm way off script.
Well, but you know, and you can say that because you do.
Right.
And thank you for the ways that you do. And you live that every day, touch so many lives. People you don't even know are looking to what you are doing. You are changing and transforming lives because you take time, you make time, and you are real, and you make clear the possibilities, exactly what you are describing. So thank you so much.
Oh,
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've talked a lot about the first 3 jobs. Now, as CEO and president of the Foundation for a Healthy St. Petersburg. So how did you transition from Eckerd College, showing, teaching, leading, administrating the organization, the university, to now building something new, right?
Yes.
That is helping people live better lives, helping people gain more mobility because they're more comfortable in who they are, they're healthier, and they're being treated fairly.
So one of my last acts of service at the hospital before I went to City Hall was the creation of this foundation as the...
You have got to be kidding.
Absolutely. The chief architect in the creation of this foundation.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It came out of the joint venture partnership of Bayfront, and because Bayfront was community-owned, community assets, the acquisition created this $250 million that needed to continue the great work that Bayfront had done for more than a century of service of creating a healthy St. Pete. And so I did that work and then went to City Hall.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm glad I paid attention to that work. You never know what you're going to inherit. You might even inherit your own, your own work.
Your own creation.
Yeah, exactly. But the foundation exists to achieve health equity in our community through the advancement of racial equity. Because there is a direct correlation and causation between the disparate outcomes that African American people in our community, particularly South St. Pete, experience as compared to the rest of the city.
How does that, I know that the Tampa Bay area completed a health needs assessment for Pinellas, Pasco, Hillsborough, and whomever else. And how does that intertwine with the Foundation for a Healthy St. Pete? And what was the outcome of it? What did you learn from that, especially when it comes to us?
So we, the foundation ran an equity profile a few years back, and all of our local not-for-profit hospitals do a regular community health needs assessment.
Correct.
To understand the outcomes of our city. And it is evidenced that there are disparities that run along the lines of race, that transcend income, transcend geography, transcend education, cannot be out-earned, cannot be out-educated, is steeped in social determinants of health that are deeply rooted in systemic bias.
What are
work
the
for
social
systems
determinants?
change.
When you talk about the social determinants of health, is this the stuff we're talking about? Food, deprivation, transportation, like different?
Yes, there are 5 key social determinants of health: access to health, access to education, one's neighborhood and built environment, financial stability and security, and social network and social construct. Those 5 things, if you know a person's inputs of those 5 things,
You could
a
determine where
public
they're going
health
to be.
scientist could tell you their health outcomes. They could tell you from what they suffer. They could tell you their propensity to recover.
Wow.
And so to make a difference in the outcomes, you have to make a difference in the systems that govern these 5 things.
So those 5 systems totally relate to SPC.
Absolutely. We're working on the same, we're in the same work.
We're working in the same way.
Yes,
and
yes.
our institution participated in last year's health needs assessment piece. We asked our students to actually do that.
Thank you. That's
And
important.
It's very important. And I had the privilege of serving on the Morton Plant Mease Hospital board. My term termed out in December, and I was the chair of community health, and had a chance to be a part of the health needs assessment and to really understand how mental, emotional, physical, all of that matters in success.
Absolutely.
And in moving forward. And so does the Foundation for a Healthy St. Petersburg look at poverty zones and really measure this and what the needs are in those poverty zones? Because that is something that SPC is also looking at. And so how do you do the work?
It's exactly what we do. Right now, we are focused on 3 zip codes, and I love that our community has come together and decided to make a concentrated impact where the need is most great. Disproportionate resources according to disproportionate need. So we are focused on 33711, 33712, and 33705. And right now we have 2 strategic areas of focus: BIPOC mental health and wellness, and economic equity and justice, because those are 2 areas where we can have the greatest impact, places where interventions and interception of trajectory can change the entirety of a generation's outcomes.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
And 2 of the zip codes, 33711, I was born and raised. I was raised in, but I was born in Midtown, and 33712 is where my house is now.
Yeah.
And so those are areas that are neglected that need the support. And one of the things that we're talking about is improving the lives of people in Pinellas County. And at St. Pete College, we've been working on better jobs, better lives, and really looking at how we can offer the right programs that will lead to high wage paying jobs. And I tell my team, we don't want to educate people into poverty, right? I don't want you to have an SPC degree or diploma on the wall and you still have to work 5 jobs to make ends meet. And so on this side of
that's so important and profound. That's it.
I mean, you can do all the educating you want, but if the certification or the degree that they have yields to, I'm still going to have to live in poverty.
High skill, high wage.
That's it. Yeah. And so we've had to make some tough decisions to remove some programs that we love.
Sure.
The enrollment might have been high, but the jobs were not there.
Sure.
And so we have moved one more step, and this is not just SPC, it's all higher ed. It used to be graduation is that's the goal.
Right.
The goalpost has moved. It is now job placement.
Placement.
You got to place.
That's right.
So we are zero focused on this. And what we've done in the partnership with the city of St. Petersburg, St. Pete Works.
Yes.
Where we're working in that poverty zip code of helping those individuals gain a high wage paying job. It's not a college degree. It's a short term rapid credential like the line worker program that we have, where 14 weeks, you make $60,000 a year. Sounds good to me.
Opportunity, self-perpetuating change.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so where do you think we could partner better?
Oh my gosh.
Well, I'm just
with so many things, so many ways we can partner because we share goals and we are serving the same constituents.
We really are.
We honor and respect them. And so I believe that every element of our work will have either a direct or indirect benefit to each other.
So it sounds like we need to have a good convening to make sure that if there are resources and we're focusing on the same zip codes, some we could do co-granting, co-writing to help serve those students and those families. Some of it may be, okay, you're doing that and we're doing that. So do we want to back out of doing it? You do it and then we do this.
That's right.
You know, and really looking at what's needed in that community. And that, my friend, is what Standing in the Gap is all about. That is
what Standing in the Gap.
It is standing there to make sure people can cross that bridge and get that thing that they've always wanted and needed. And so I think that we have solved the world's problems today. And I just want to thank you so much, Dr. Tomalin. And I don't know if there's one final word or piece of advice that you feel. Tonjua, let me share this one thing. You get the last word.
Well, I appreciate getting the last word. And I think that I want to use it to thank you for paying attention to the importance of people's stories and the roles that we play in people's lives and taking that so seriously. So many people entrust their entire future to you. And you and your entire team answer that with such respect. So just want to tell you, we meet you where you are. There's so much for us to do together. And thank you for your vision and the way that you breathe life into it every day.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.